In this video, we have a CGC unboxing with a ton of really useful information about the current state of CGC and the whole grading process and even how to grade books. Stay tuned.
Bry's Comics.
Pre-sales are live for Grimm #1, the shared exclusive between Bry's Comics and Anti-Hero Gallery with epic artwork by Zoo Orzu, knocking it out of the park once again. And we also have free comic book day live at bryscomics.com. There's a whole page dedicated to that with all the regular titles plus a bunch of freebies. So go check that out and enjoy today's video. Welcome to Bry's Comics. On this channel, we do a monthly giveaway on my YouTube channel for a CGC slab and over at bryscomics.com. If you sign up for the newsletter at bryscomics.com, you're entered to win a free slab every single month. This month is a Silver Age graded Fantastic Four key. But this video is the last video associated with the $60,000 collection that I bought back in October of last year. I bought a $60,000 collection, and I'm doing a special giveaway for all of the videos associated with that. I'll put links in the description to all the videos associated with that. And if you comment on this video, like this video, and subscribe to the channel, you're entered to win Amazing Spider-Man 298 in a CGC 9.2 with white pages and these two Silver Age Thor books. So this is the last video for that collection. I bought the collection in October. All of the slabs have been sold. All of the raw books have been processed, submitted, came back from CGC, and have been sold, except for this is the last batch of those books. It was just a modern batch. So it took about a little over 6 months to process that massive collection. And when I reflect back on it, man, it's just so crazy. I mean, how many interactions and deals and live sales and listings. I mean, we've been at it hardcore for the past 6 months, and that was just part of what's going on. So it's really cool to see. This was the first time I bought a massive collection like that. So it's really cool to see how long it takes to process it, how long it takes to get through it, and everything that's involved. And so I submitted these books modern, no pre-screen. Okay, so when you submit to CGC, you can give it a pre-screen grade and say, I only want you to grade and encapsulate the books if it hits the desired grade, like a 9.8, and if not, return them to me raw with an $8 rejection fee for modern books. And one of the things that I've been noticing lately is that CGC is in a state of change. There's the comic book market boom that has happened. They have changed ownership. They have changed management. I'm sure they have hired a massive amount of new people to accommodate this huge boom in their business and the comic book business in general. And a lot of people ask and wonder, you know, how has that affected their grading? Is it tougher? Is it stricter? Is it easier? And what I can say for sure is that it's changing, okay? That they're in a state of change. I wish I can make a blanket statement and say that CGC is more strict these days, but in all honesty, I've had some books come back that are looser and some books come back that are stricter. And I just don't think that there's a blanket statement of how their grading is these days. So I wanted to clarify here, when I say have grading standards changed, I'm talking about from like a couple years ago, from right before the big boom to where they had all the changes in their infrastructure and management and personnel to today. So that's what I mean when I'm talking about here with have their grading standards changed. As far as when CGC started to today, they definitely have changed. Old label CGC labels and new label CGC labels, those books are without a doubt graded at different standards. So stay tuned for a future video detailing all of that. So for example, sometimes I submit a lot of the same book, whether it's a pre-sale or an exclusive cover, something like that. And I've had situations recently where I've sent in, 50 copies of the same book, and they get broken into two submissions, 25 here and 25 here. And one week, more than half of them are rejected for the 9.8. And then the next week, almost 95% of them make the 9.8. And it's the same title from the same stock of books. Every comic book is individually different, but for the most part, there's no real reason why one submission to the next in this situation should have such drastic differences, except for a different grader, right? And so, I don't know that this is any different than it's always been with CGC. Grading has always been subjective. It always will be subjective. So it's really hard to make any blanket statements. And my advice would be be this, is don't make any decisions based off of something that a friend or a YouTuber or something says about, oh, CGC is more strict now because of this, or they're easier because of this, because even if that's true for that week or that month, it may change. A lot of things change, especially because of all of the growth and stuff that they're going through. For example, their grading tiers right now, Fast Track Modern is flying through, but next week, it could be coming to a screeching halt. You know, these things are changing. There's any number of reasons why Fast Track Modern is going so fast today, and it might not be the same tomorrow. So just take it with a grain of salt. If anyone's out there toting that CGC is this or CGC is that, I would just say that they're changing, and you can expect them to continue to change. So with that said, let's jump into these books. So first up, we have Stars and Stripe number 0, and we have a 9.0 and a 9.8, which is really interesting. Neither of these books have notes. This is the first appearance of Star Spangled Kid number 2 in Courtney Whitmore, and it's also the first professional work of Jeff Johns. I didn't realize that this was the first professional work of Jeff Johns. That actually might make this a PC book for me, because I think first professional works for artists that are early on in their career are great investment potential because of, you know, just thinking, you know, down the road as their careers continue. So there's no notes on either of these books. What's interesting about this is you can look at this 9.8, and as you can see right here, there is some spine stress. Now, these are non-color breaking spine ticks, and I did a video about allowable defects in a CGC 9.8, and one of the things is spine ticks. And I've said in that video, and I've thought, should I redo that video? Have things changed with CGC? And the thing is that they really haven't. I mean, it goes back and forth, but what's important is the stock, the paper quality of this book. So when you see spine ticks like this on this book, I don't think this is something that CGC missed. I think that they take into account, especially when they have two copies side by side that they graded literally one after the other, they're able to look at the stock and go, oh, okay, this has cheap paper quality and you know, is super cheap paper stock. Now, if you compared this book to like a cardstock cover right next to it, and the cardstock cover had the same type of spine stress, that cardstock cover might get a 9.4 or 9.6 or 9.2. It really could be any of those things with spine ticks like that. It depends on the book. It depends on the paper quality and the cardstock. So you can't just say across the board that spine ticks like that result in a certain lower grade. There is nuance to it, and that's the whole thing about grading, is it's nuanced. It's a matter of perspective and opinion, and depends on the grader that day, and it's just part of it. And so that's why I think this has non-color breaking spine ticks and still got the 9.8. But the 9.0 doesn't have any notes, and the main thing that I would say is different here is in the spine there is like these color breaking rubs. So the color rub is significant enough to break color in the spine in multiple spots. And there's also this a manufacturing defect that goes down the full length of the book, and that definitely affects the grade because it doesn't affect the entire print run. And here they have two books side by side, and they see, oh, this is a manufacturing error, but it's not on every book, so it's going to affect the grade quite a bit. If there was 1,000 of these at CGC and they all had the exact same manufacturing error, they would let that slide and still get a 9.8. Fury of Firestorm number 1, this one got a 9.6, and the only things I can see is this non-color breaking spine tick right here, which, you know, I have seen allowed in 9.8. I mean, we just saw it there, but this is a different type of cardstock and a different type of paper. But I think this degree of spine tick would be allowed in a 9.8, and the reason it wasn't here is because there's also distribution overspray. That's what this is right here on the book, this spray paint, and there are some degree of overspray is allowed in a CGC 9.8. It depends on the severity, depends on where in the book it is, but I have had books get 9.8 with overspray, and I have had others come back 9.4, 9.6. All right, Marvel Comics presents number 72. This is the origin of Wolverine in Weapon X. Got a 9.0, and the grader's notes say crunch left top of back cover. So let's see if we can find that. So there you can see the crunch left top of back cover. So there you can see finger bends on the top of back cover, and you can see on the front we've got multiple spine stress lines that break color. So 9.0, every bit of a 9.0, definitely could have been improved a little bit. It's not worth cracking at this point. but it is what it is. Black Panther number 1 came back at 9.2. The graders notes say finger bends back cover. And there you can see some of the finger bends on the back cover. Who knows if those things like reverted back or if I just never got them out in the first place, but a quick press wasn't good enough. So here's SpiderMan Unlimited number 2. We got the 9.8. Some low print run Spawn. We got the 9.8, Spawn 145, Spawn 88, Spawn 150, Spawn 97, amazing Angela cover there, Spawn 77, Spawn 88, and Spawn 146 came back at 9.6, and I really can't, there's no notes, and I can't really tell why it would have got a 9.6. If you look down the spine, I mean, there is some non-color breaking spine ticks, but there's nothing that just stands out to me glaringly as to why this got a 9.6. So in this case, you know, it's not worth it for me to crack press and resubmit it. But if this was gonna be like a PC book for me, if this was like a really important book to me, I would definitely crack it out and resubmit it. I probably wouldn't even press it again because I can't really see anything. And this is one of those situations where if you submit it 5 times, it could get a 9.8, you know, several of the times. So here we have Spawn 140 and a 9.6, and the same thing on this. If this was a really important book to me, I would consider cracking and send it back in. None of the Spawn 9.6s have graders notes, and they all look pretty darn good. So here's 148 and a 9.6 as well. Omega Men number 3, and this came back in 8.5 white pages. The graders notes say finger bends left top of back cover, and there you can catch that finger bend right there. And that definitely can be worked out. Again, I'm not sure if it reverted or if I never got it in the first place. Small crease left bottom of front cover. So this is the main thing in causing the drop in grade. It can be improved a little bit, but it does break color a little bit, so I'm not sure if it's worth it there. And then we have small crease right center of back cover. So there we have the small crease right center of back cover. Here's Flash 197. It came back in 9.6. Origin and first appearance of Zoom. And the graders notes say very small staple tear. That is crazy small. That's the staple tear that they're talking about. I mean, that definitely could go either way. I'm surprised that they even notated that. Now here's the thing about cracking this book and sending it back in is, you know, they didn't mention right here in the bottom corner, you can see like a small crease right there. So even if you were to submit it again and they didn't mention anything about the staple tear, they very well could say small crease bottom left of back cover. So you know, it's not worth sending back in. Blue Beetle number 1 came back in 9.6 white pages. First appearance of Fire Fist. There's no notes. I'm not sure exactly why it's 9.6. It has a small miswrap and a small miscut. So it's miswrapped because the back cover comes over to the front cover a little bit, and it's miscut because it's a little bit off kilter. Very common. Wouldn't affect the grade. That's definitely not the reason that it got a 9.6. But here you can really see the miscut. Just a little bit of the guide came through. So a slight miscut and miswrap is allowed in a 9.8. Infinite Crisis number 3. This is the first appearance of Jamie Reyes, a Mexican-American teenager, in the 3rd Blue Beetle, but he's not in costume yet. And here is his first full appearance and first cover, and this one got a 9.4. There's 2 different covers for this, a George Perez and a Jim Lee. This is the Jim Lee cover. And this one says it got a 9.4 because of spine stress lines. And so here you can see the spine stress lines. There's quite a few, and they are severe, actually. It might not look severe on camera, but it's definitely a 9.4. And here we have the George Perez cover, and it came back a 9.8. Immortal Hulk number 1 came back 9.8. Howard the Duck came back 9.8. Werewolf by Night number 1 came back 9.8. And Totally Awesome Hulk number 1 came back 9.8. Marvel Spotlight Volume 2, number 6. This is the origin and first comic book appearance of Star-Lord. And this is the worst grade out of the whole batch, 6.5 white pages. And this is a good example of several things. One, it's a good example of how much staining can affect the grade, because the graders notes say heavy staining to cover. So here you can see some of the staining on the back. And it's interesting because I wouldn't call that heavy, but I also noticed that there's a little bit of staining right there. So I'm not sure exactly how pervasive the staining is. You know, if I were to open the covers and see, it might show that there's staining all over the place. But I do have a new method that I'm going to try out, and we'll see. This will be a great example to see if I can get a bump on it, just out of curiosity if I can fix stains. But it's also a good example of a book that, you know, has other things going on. Like right here is a crease, but it doesn't say anything in the grader's notes. So it's an example of grader's notes are not exhaustive. They just decided to put in there about the staining. They didn't even bother to do anything else and just gave it a 6.5. So here we have New Teen Titans number 2, came back at 9.2. It's the first appearance of Deathstroke. So there's no grader's notes on this, but the main thing is this spine tick right here that does actually break color a little bit. It could be improved a little, but it does break color. And then there's also a tiny little corner crunch down here. So in my opinion, not worth cracking or trying again. Spectacular Spider-Man 64 Origin and first appearance of Cloak and Dagger. No grader's notes on this one, but I do see this one you know, color breaking spine tick there. That's probably the majority of the grade bump. So here we have Amazing Spider-Man 344, the first full appearance of Cletus Cassidy and the first full appearance of Cardiac. I never would have got this graded if I thought it was going to come back an 8.0. The graders notes say very light bends to cover. These, I believe, are the bends up here, and it says very light creasing to cover, and there's some right there and some on the back as well, and very light spine stress lines to cover, and you can see there's just very light spine ticks on the spine. So all those things combined make it every bit of an 8.0. All New Wolverine number 2 came back at 9.4, first appearance of Gabby Bologna and Zelda Kinney. And this got a 9.4 because of spine stress lines. And sure enough, you can see spine stress lines in several places on the cover. So 9.4. All New Wolverine number 1, the first Laura Kinney is the new Wolverine. This is the design variant, came back 9.8. Spider-Man number 26 came back at 9.4 with that awesome hologram cover. I'm not sure what the problem is on this one. As you can see, the spine looks really good. I'm not sure exactly what it is. I'm sure there's something, I just can't see it through the case. Here we have Amazing Fantasy number 1, came back in 9.6, the first appearance of Anya Corazon. And there's no notes on this one, but right here I can see there's just a little bit of a corner crunch, and they're giving this one a 9.6 because of that. Star Wars The Force Awakens adaptation number 1 got the 9.8. This one is interesting, 497, Batman 497, Bane breaks Batman's back, worth it in a 9.8, not in a 9.4. And they say that there's a full indent, and this is one that I think is just kind of crazy. This is the indent. As you can see, even when you catch it in the light, it's hard to see. Like, it is so light, and they're saying full indent of back cover. I mean, you can see it there. It's just like this very faint indent that goes across. That's crazy. I think this gets a 9.8, 9 times out of 10. Champions number 9, this is the origin and first appearance of the Red Locust, which I think has potential, especially if they do a Champions show. And here's Champion 16, this is where Riri Williams joins the Champions. And here's Champions 22, which is the first appearance of Amadeus Cho as Brawn. And we got a 9.8 and a 9.6. And there's no notes on either of these. I can't tell why. I'm sure there's something that gave it a 9.6 that I just can't see through the case. Strange Academy number 1, the first appearance of Emily Bright, Doyle Dormammu, Shaylee Moonpetal, Calvin Morris, Desi, German Guslag Zoe, Alvi, Eric, and Toth. So just an awesome Peach Momoko cover. Really glad that this came back 9.8, and so did the J. Scott Campbell variant cover and the Ramos wraparound cover. All got 9.8. Captain America number 6, the first full appearance of the Winter Soldier, and this came back a 9.4. And the only thing I can see is there's like a weird indent thing going on right back here, which I didn't catch or reverted back. Eve number 1, I believe this is the 1 in 50 or the 1 in 100 variant for Eve. Thor 364, this is the first appearance of Throg in a newsstand. And the graders notes say light creasing to cover and light spine stress lines to cover. So here's some light creasing. Here's some light creasing up here. I would call those finger bends, but they're called creasing. And as far as the spine stress lines, the front spine looks really good. I think the spine stress lines on this one are coming from the back, which you can see right here. There's just light spine stress lines. That comes from pulling this book out of a boxed and bending it backwards to take a look at the cover. That little motion right there will put spine ticks on the back of the spine, but not the front, so it looks great through the front of the bag. Ultimate Fantastic Four number 22. This is the origin and first full appearance of the Marvel Zombies. Got a 9.6 with no notes. This is a tough book to get in 9.8 because of super cheap paper. And we also have the second appearance of the Marvel Zombies, came back 9.6. And Ultimate Fantastic Four number 30, which is the first cover appearance of the Marvel Zombies, and we did get the 9.8 on this one. Tales of the Teen Titans number 44, this is the first appearance of Jericho and the origin of Deathstroke. 9.4, no notes on that one. And Power Man number 48 came back in 8.0, the first meeting of Power Man and Iron Fist. And the graders notes on this one say light creasing to cover, and here you can see right here is a light crease. And the graders notes also say moderate spine stress lines to cover. And this one's interesting because here you can see that spine stress, and this is moderate, okay? So this is a step up from light spine stress. This is moderate spine stress. It affects the grade a bunch more, and you can see it's way more significant. The color break is a larger piece of the spine. So that's the difference between moderate and light. So there you have it, guys. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, comment on this video, and like this video for your chance to win the special giveaway associated with that $60,000 collection. Links in the description to all of the videos associated with that. We'll draw a winner from that soon. And sign up for that newsletter at BryceComics.com to be entered to win a separate slab. Thank you, as always, for sticking with me to the end of the video, and we'll catch you in the next one. Bye.
Bryce Comics.